Last question.
Mm-hmm.
Since our last interview, the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock slapping incident happened. Now, you were actually in Bad Boys. 1 and 2, right?
1 and 2.
So you got to work with Will Smith. How old do you know him?
Pretty well.
Pretty well.
Yeah. Since he was 19.
When you saw that slapping, were you surprised or were you like, okay, that's just how Will is. People just don't know him that well?
I was making jokes of it at first, like everybody else, because Chris Rock handled it better than anybody could have handled it.
Yeah, he said Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
And he's like, best night in television. All right, let's get going. And then he read it. He said, greatest night on television, biggest night in television. Chris Rock, being so witty, caught what was happening and rode with it. Still hasn't said anything. Will hasn't said anything. The only person that said anything.
Well, Will apologized on stage, not to Chris Rock, but to the audience,
right,
and the other nominees. And also, he made a statement, I believe, like a couple of days later, apologizing to Chris and so forth.
Right.
So he did do a statement. He just didn't do an interview or whatever about it.
It was the only thing not the only thing, but one of the things I know Will feel sorry for, that, Questlove, Philly kid, got his Oscar, and it overshadowed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's another thing. Like, Will was mad that it overshadowed what Quest executive produced the show.
Me and Questlove have our differences, so that.
Yeah, I know, but
that part don't bother me.
You
too
see
much.
how I slid it in?
You slid it in. I saw the slide.
But it was an amazing situation, and my artist Veda said to me, and I was like, having a conversation about it, and she said, no matter what you do in life, the ultimate is the infinite amount of realities that can happen. And the infinite amount of realities that happen with Will is he got to step, like I've been telling you, needed a break. He got to step off the train for a second, look at everything, see what is in dust and can be brushed off and put back on. But that one smack shouldn't determine the person he is. He's an unbelievable human. I'm telling you, everything that you thought you know about Will, besides the crazy sex stuff that you say, as you see, when we had that conversation, I wasn't going to entertain it just like them because I know it not to be true. And the reason, but then you have to realize, like I said, the pressures that come with being the man.
Yeah.
It was a moment that I'm sure he wish he could take back.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was, 7 seconds he can take back. But him being the guy he is, he went, figured it out, got to the center of where that may have come from. And it is what it is. I'm behind Will.
Yeah, I just feel, from my point of view, and I don't know Will at all. I've never met him. I've never met Chris Rock. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
I met Tony.
Yeah.
Me and him have had conversations and so forth. But these two men, Jada, I don't know her either. I've met their son a couple times, but I'm very much removed from the situation. From the outside looking in, I felt it was somewhat cowardly because of who he did it to. Chris Rock is a small, relatively harmless man who has been bullied his whole life to the point where he's gotten put in the hospital and everything else like that. There was no physical threat that Chris Rock would have made to Will Smith. Now, Jazzy Jeff did an interview and said, well, no, so y'all don't know Chris. He would have smacked Mike Tyson. I don't believe that. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. You could say it. That's your man. I mean, I understand why you would say it. But, if The Rock had said that same joke on stage, I don't think Will would have ran up on The Rock. I just don't think so.
I do.
You think so? You think that Will Smith would have smacked The Rock in the face?
I think he would.
The Oscars?
You think? I think The Rock would put the mic down and unbutton his jacket. Donald Rollins said Chris Rock is the only one that buttoned his jacket and put his face for it. Like, I take my hat off. I'm going to say to Chris, Chris handled it better than anybody I can possibly think to handle anything, to the point when the guy ran up on stage with Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock goes to the mic and was like, was that Will Smith?
Was that Will
Like,
Smith?
he puts everything in just in the content, and he's a master at it. Sometimes you don't get the stuff, like you said, he's been bullied his whole life. I think that's how he learned to deal with it. And we don't know. We don't know what spirits jumped into Will for that minute and 10 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, clearly there's a long history with these two.
Right.
They've known each other. I mean, Chris Rock had been on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They've done stuff together. I heard there was always someone of attention
Right.
between the two of them.
Yeah, like, they showed that when Chris did a show and he goes, we're going to give you an award. You went 5 minutes without saying the word Will Smith and all that kind of stuff, making fun.